Okay, there it is. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. I see we're recording, so I'm going to go right to it. Thank you for joining Hollywood
Sure.
Time for this interview. And I just really wanted to hear from you what inspired you to start your organization and what you guys do.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. Um, so for about 10, 12 years, I had a broken and distant relationship with my parents. Um, I grew up in an immigrant family. My parents are from China, and I grew up I was born in Hawaii and mostly grew up in San Francisco. And I had these two cultures kind of at odds, where at school, I desperately wanted to fit in. But at home, my parents were, speaking Chinese and living in their own culture. And because I so desperately wanted to fit in, I rejected my parents for the longest time. I didn't know how to talk to them. I didn't know how to receive their love. I didn't know how to give them my love. And they were honestly the only people that I took my stresses and frustrations out on. I would come home and I would yell at them. I'd come home and find any excuse to just lash out and to dump all of these stresses that I was feeling growing up onto the two people who loved me the most. So it wasn't until about a year after college when I hit rock bottom, and company I started, I had to shut it down. My longest relationship ended. Um, that I started looking around and I realized that the single most important thing that I had to confront was all of that shame and all of that guilt from all the years I mistreated my parents. And there was nothing more important than rebuilding that relationship and to get to know them. So I wrote them this letter that I read to them over the phone. I told them I loved them. I thanked them for raising me, and I promised them that day that I would get to know them and start being in their lives. So Parents Are Human, the card game that I co-founded. Um, this was a friend's idea actually, who came together, and we thought, wow, we always had this language barrier with our parents. Didn't have the high level Chinese to ask them the questions that we really wanted, the questions that got us closer to our friends. So why not try to create a bridge between, at least for our own parents, our own families, to get to know them better. And so we came up with these 50 questions and 20 actions after probably interviewing and surveying hundreds of people. And I ended up playing this game with my parents every single week with a group of friends. And this is what completely changed the trajectory of our relationship. I got to hear, I don't know how many stories that I'll never forget about my parents, and I feel closer than ever to them. So,
What are
um,
some of those stories, Joseph? What a powerful why of why you have this organization and started this, and we'll get to the mechanics of the game in just a little bit. But the stories are everything that bonds people together. What were those stories that you heard that you never heard before you played the game?
yeah, probably my favorite story is from the very first question from our card game, which is, what was your favorite food growing up? Um, and my mom, yeah, she went into, I think it was 2, 3 hours of recounting what it was like for her to not have any food growing up in China. And that was like a puzzle piece that I didn't realize I had missing from my own understanding, my own internal understanding of my parents. So I realized why it was that she loved to cook so much food for everyone, that she loved to share her baked goods with our whole apartment complex and would deliver it to every doorstep. It was the single most valuable thing to her when she was growing up. Um, And same with my dad. I had no idea the sorts of challenges that he had to go through growing up, where he didn't have any family to go to when he was younger. His parents divorced when he was really young, and um and he shared just why he raised me in the way that he did, why family was always number one for him, why he sacrificed so much day in and day out, to help us. It was because his pride and joy was to one day have a family that he never had the chance to have, that he witnessed in all of the families where he stayed when he was really young. So just some of the uh, again, the puzzle pieces that I think are the foundation, the roots of the empathy that a lot of us need to finally connect with our loved ones.
I think you really touched on, the why. I'm not making excuses for what you did or what many did, including, I definitely related to your story of, growing up in a in two different cultures. You're almost having to play like Jekyll and Hyde, right? You got this
Mhm.
world here at home that's very different from what you experience in school and in your career down the line. And, I think that's a root cause for a lot of the divide, and especially when Asian parents really push, kind of academics and being part of that other world,
Mhm.
sometimes at the expense of the connection. How do we remedy that? I think that's something I have noticed. This is not just isolated to what you experience. I think it goes for a lot of second generation, or whatever you want to call it, first generation,
Mhm.
uh, um, Asian Americans. Can you speak to the broader experience? And it took you rock bottom to figure things out, and
Mhm.
it was the same for me. Unfortunately, in my case, my dad passed away 3 years ago before I could
Oh.
really make those. I wish I could play this card game. This is what really touched me
Mm.
about your press,
Remarks.
the press
Yeah.
wire. I said, wow, I wish I had that opportunity to play this game with my dad, but alas, that will not
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
How do we wake up a bunch of people in our culture to not be in the situation I'm in, and to actually have the opportunity for redemption and reconciliation like you did?
Yeah. Thanks for asking, and thanks for being so vulnerable and sharing that, Mark. I
Oh,
really
you
appreciate
too.
it. Thank you.
What your story is so vulnerable, and the humility that comes with it is so admirable. Go
I
ahead.
really appreciate that. That means a lot, Mark. Um, I think I want to start by saying I have so much compassion and so much understanding of anyone in a place of feeling a lot of pain for the ways that their parents may have shown up that have caused them a lot of pain. That is to say, like none of that pain is invalid. None of the feeling of unfairness of maybe parents having a completely different perspective on you and
Mhm.
experiencing this almost this wall that we really want to push against for the longest time. And um our parents just had so many different experiences than us. Like, at least for in my case, my parents are like more than 2 decades older than me, and or actually for like way more than that, 4 decades older than me. And and I didn't have the time or the space when I was growing up to actually be curious about what the heck was going on in my parents' world and their lives. And the thing that I realized was, this was my wake up call, if I had gone through what they had gone through growing up and walked in their shoes and experienced all the unfairness and the pain and the trauma that they experienced, I probably would have similar beliefs. I would have like,
Right.
wow, this whole thing about having the best grades and to get into a stable career and everything that may apply to a lot of families, that was simply what they had to arrive at,
Mhm.
the conclusion they had to get to in order to live their best life. And we are so privileged and so lucky to have a lot of those basic Maslow's hierarchy of needs, bottom tiers taken care of, right? We don't
To
have
be
to
able to
struggle.
think about other
Yeah,
stuff.
we don't even have to think about it. We have the luxury of thinking about self-actualization and fulfillment and what brings us the most joy. So I can see so clearly how the dominoes fell, where our two generations clashed. And that's okay. That's normal. It's not accepted, but it's normal. It's not acceptable. Uh, and there is something that we can do about that. And unfortunately, I think the reality, the tough pill to swallow is I can never change my parents, right? I have to remember that over and over again and remind myself that no matter how much I think that it would be the best thing in the world if my parents just believed in different things, that I don't have the power to affect and to make them any different. The only power I do have is to change myself. And what step I can take is to actually get curious about their whole lives and what led them to where they are. That's step one.
What do you think we can do, as a society? Because I think this, a lot of people are feeling this, or are not where we're at in terms of understanding or getting that curiosity. Does the game spur that curiosity? How are you going about waking up our new generation to connecting with the older generation?
Yeah, thanks for asking. To me, this is simply a tool that allows people to start the string of really difficult conversations.
Mm.
It's a context that I wish I had when I was growing up, where I didn't have any, even the tiniest opening to just talk about something that was different than what we were always talking about, which was like, when are we eating dinner and what are we eating for dinner and where are we going this weekend? And like, right, it was always the exact same conversations over and over again. And of course, because they're the same, they often led to the same results of someone being unhappy about something that I don't know, I felt I wasn't heard about before, or my parents didn't hear me, and then similar on their side. So how do we break out of that cycle of having pretty much the exact same conversations, the same shade of conversations over and over again? And I guess the excuse is to just have another thing to prompt something, right? To have a card be the reason why a question just comes up, and it's not as much pressure, right? It's not as much friction to have to, like, sit down and have a serious conversation with our loved ones and be like, I want to get to know you. No, it's just like, hey, can we play this game? It's kind of a thing I found online. And yeah, I was wondering, what did you have a really amazing teacher that changed your life? Right? So I think it has to start small. It would be a dream to be able to magically, in a snap, heal people's intergenerational traumas and the years and years of pain, of misunderstanding, right? But I think it just has to be at the very, very small level, at the very beginning of that journey. And I'm glad we could come up with something that could even
Yeah.
help
What
move
are
that
some of
forward
the
a little
other
bit.
questions? I like the favorite food one, that opens up a nice discussion about things. But what are some of your other favorites?
Yeah. The question that I've been told has brought up the most breakthrough experiences is, what is one bad habit you wish you could break? And that question, although I mention it because most people who haven't asked that question are to some level kind of scared of it. They're like, well, what if my parents, who have never seen to be vulnerable ever in my whole life, hear this question and completely reject me or reject the question and, dismiss it. It would be a very scary and unfortunate experience. But what I'm realizing is that question actually ends up leading to some of the most vulnerable conversations that were never expected. I've had quite a few phone calls with people who have actually asked that question and have been in tears because they're like, my dad was vulnerable with me for the very first time and told me that, hey, sometimes when I get really stressed out, I start to become distant and I stop talking to people. And that's like something that just blows people's minds, that their family members actually have these thoughts come up.
Yes.
So,
I think you
no.
hit on something really powerful, because a lot of Asian parents want to create this shield of, not talking about emotions and being like, hey, I'm the parent, I'm in control. I don't want to show any vulnerability, because then that would weaken, the family structure. And it's our responsibility to be strong at all times.
Yeah.
And my parents never touched upon their gambling problems and were never honest about
Ooh.
it until it ruined their lives. And my dad died, from health issues at 61. And then my mom lost her mind. So I'm not able to have this conversation with them. But I think I have before. I've tried.
Mhm.
But, I remember there was a wall even on their side because of, oh, I'm the parent, you're the child, no
Mhm.
matter how old you become. How do we, I mean, I know this game is very helpful in breaking that down, but humility is a key component in that last question you asked.
Mhm.
And that is a very humble, that really brings people out of their shell. But a lot of people won't come out of their shell and will react. I can tell you, my parents would have reacted and said, what is this hogwash? I'm not going to play this. So how do we get those who are more resistant to accept that question?
Yeah, I think that's the reason we have levels in our game. It was we
Mm,
made two levels. Level one is the easy, like the things that are so detached from us. It's like, oh, what's your favorite food? What was your
superficial
favorite
stuff. Yeah.
place that you saw? Like the most beautiful place that you visited. Um, I mean, let's see, uh, what else? Yeah, like what movie has inspired you, right? Something that is so
Right.
not uh what's the word? Threatening,
It's
right?
yeah, it's not controversial. Something
Right,
that's very
exactly.
surface level. Yeah.
Mhm. And then only after, I think, and of course, this depends on everyone's comfort at the moment with their parents, and of course where their parents are at. Um, After you ask enough of these questions, then you can start to get into the slightly harder ones, and then the slightly harder ones, and the harder ones. And because, so to me, the way I think about it is disconfirming beliefs. So disconfirming experiences. When we have experienced, well, especially for me, when I've experienced hundreds of thousands of the exact same conversations where we're just butting heads and we're not experiencing any sort of connection, then that's what I believe will happen. And that's probably what my parents are believing will happen as well, right? They're like, okay, this is probably going to lead, it's muscle memory. It's going to go there again. But
Mhm.
if we just start having a few, maybe 10 or so of these experiences where we're like, wait, we can actually have a decent conversation that doesn't go to
Mm.
doesn't fly out the window, right? Then maybe we can start having some more in-depth questions and conversations. And that's what actually happens more times than I can count.
That's amazing. I think it's genius, actually. I think you've gamified it, which is really such an Asian thing to do if you think about it, right? You took this, you took what was actually very powerful, a familial relationship that is, stuck in its ways, basically, and then mixed it up with a card game that can, wake people up. So that's really, really powerful. So, let's get to kind of the mechanics of what you're doing out there. So you have a nonprofit, is that correct, Joseph?
Oh, no, not actually. A for-profit company, just an LLC.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So it's a for-profit company, even better. That's great. We want to see you go to great heights then. What's kind of your strategy out there? Are you going to go out and really talk about this, and kind of like when you reached out to us for media and promote what is really, I mean, it instantly hooked me right away, because obviously I'm Asian and I could relate to the content, but I'm sure are you focusing purely on the Asian market, and what are you doing to get this out there?
Yeah. We're where I am right now is I actually quit my job at the beginning of this year to pursue this full
Congrats.
time. It was mostly, yeah, it was mostly um, just a passion project on the weekends. And we just got so many people organically finding us, hearing the story and sharing it.
Wow.
We were selling out, and I was like, okay, I just need to stop whatever I'm doing, and this is
How
truly my life
cool is
calling.
that?
So
Wow.
yeah, I feel so lucky that I found this combination of passion, purpose, and a business that can actually be sustainable. And the main ways we're reaching out is just through initially the different communities on Facebook. So a lot of the Subtle Asian Traits and Asian Hustle Network and Asian Creative Network, right? Just going through those groups, knowing that a lot of people who speak the initial languages we're translating into, where they're hanging out. So that's always been one of our biggest opportunities, especially during the holidays when people are thinking of gifts to give to their family members.
Oh,
Um,
perfect.
Another way that we're going about just making this more accessible is, from the beginning, I was like, these conversations are way too valuable to keep under like a paywall, right? So we made a digital version of it that's completely free for everyone to access, and it's pay what you want. So I've been really pleasantly surprised by how many thousands of people donate that they don't actually just get it for free. And that actually spreads the word quite a lot because of just the accessibility of it. And yeah, I would love for more people to hear my really difficult and challenging and humbling and raw experiences, because it was so uh, I felt so lonely back in the day. I thought I was the only person who had these crazy challenges with my parents, where I felt like I couldn't stay a minute at home, that all I wanted to do was just run away and be as far away as possible. And I want more people to know that that is actually normal, and that is what we need to talk about. And in order to solve any problem, we need to first confront that it exists. So yeah, I spent actually hundreds of hours writing these essays that a lot of people have now read. I want to spread that all of those mistakes that I made, all the lessons that I made, or that I learned with everyone, so that more people would feel less alone.
That's so powerful. I have to go check that out. So, for our audience, for Hollywood Times, and for our audience, can you tell us where we can find you, and read these essays, and maybe take advantage for now of the free resources that you have on your website, but also encourage everyone to donate like they have been, because that's what keeps this, keeps what you're doing, the important work you're doing, going.
Yeah.
Where can we find it?
Yeah, everything can be found at parentsarehuman.com. And that's also the handle for all of our social media. So Parents Are Human, one word. And we have our blog on there is where I share most of my thoughts and most of the mini essays. It's like a lesson for every mini essay. And that's also where you can get all the pay what you want cards.
And this is so are you on Facebook, Twitter,
Mhm.
Instagram, all of that?
All of that.
Pinterest?
Yep.
Okay.
Not Pinterest yet, but
I think that would be very powerful if you got on that. A lot of women have probably the same, you know,
oh yeah.
and yeah, I know that's big on the in that community. So,
Mhm.
yeah. And where are you physically located, Joseph? Are
Yeah,
you in San Francisco?
based in San Francisco.
Okay.
That's where our headquarters are at, and I am currently in Chicago, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great. Are you touring right now for your card game, or what brings you to Chicago?
Oh, I'm living with my partner's, my girlfriend's parents. They very generously offered a space for us to stay in, and it's amazing to go between my parents and her family's places, just to maximize that family time.
Wonderful, wonderful. And are you planning to go on tour with this, or what's kind of the plans for growing, the awareness, or is everything pretty much online driven and maybe just through Zoom like this?
Yeah, I think most of it will be online given the state of the world at the moment.
Yes.
Although I am so very open to traveling to more places in the near future as the world opens up more. Yeah.
Awesome. That sounds great. So let's stay in touch, Joseph. Obviously, I'll shoot you over and your agent the write up, and you can see what we end up writing out for you. But I'm just so inspired by what you're doing. I thank you for your. I mean, it takes a lot of strength and bravery to come out with your own personal story like this, and to touch people's lives. You've certainly touched mine just by being and doing what you're doing. So
Yeah.
super excited to see what develops for you. It's so wonderful to hear that organic interest, because I know it's so powerful. It's going to gain more and more of that interest. So whatever I can do to help you, I'm here for you, and let's just stay in touch. And I so appreciate you taking the time this Saturday morning to chat with me.
Thank you so much, Mark. It really means the world. Thank you.
Okay, Joseph. And again, once again, parentsarehuman.com, right?
Mhm. Yep.
And also the same, parents are human, one word, on all the social media networks, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of that. So make sure to do your research on Joseph, and watch as this thing grows bigger and bigger. Thank you so much, Joseph.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so
Have a
much,
great
Mark.
day.
You as
Take
well.
care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.